Hello, apartment therapy. Welcome to my 550 square foot apartment in New York City. This is a studio apartment. I do have a separate kitchen and I do have a little studio space in the hallway tucked into a corner in the back. For the most part, the apartment is this one room. So I sleep here. I leave the bed down. It is a Murphy bed. I leave the bed down most of the time. But I do also love to entertain. So the space being a multi-purpose space was really important to me. The top priority for this space in terms of function was to make sure that I had the space for people to join me here. And that also means having the visual space for people to be comfortable here. I wanted to host my weekly D&D game, which is 7 people in this apartment, including myself. That was a big contender in thinking about the size of things and where I could put things. The first thing you see when you come into this apartment is a lot of color and a lot of art and a lot of joy. The thing that I was really excited to do with this space was to build a space that was cozy and comfortable and would welcome me home into my own aesthetic. One of the key things you'll notice about my design is that I use a lot of color blocking, and color blocking is a really simple way to think about areas and spaces. If you're looking at color blocking specifically, or you want to be painting really clean lines, there are a couple of different tricks that I used. The painter's tape brand that I'd recommend is the Scotch brand. You have to go with the good stuff. The next tip is to make sure that you've primed well if you are able to prepare your base wall. If you start off of a nice clean prime with a good primer, you're gonna have a lot less problems with paint peeling up with your painter's tape. A house painter's trick that you can use to get the really clean lines that you'll see in some places where I've got 2 colors overlapping, what you wanna do is you paint your first block out, right? You're ready to move to your second block, or you've painted your base wall and you're ready to put your color block on. Put your tape down, measure it out, put your tape down in nice clean lines, really press it down, make sure it's nice. And then in the space that you want to be painting on, paint over the tape in the base wall color. Don't use your new color yet. Let that dry and then paint in your new color. What that does is it seals in any paint that was going to seep underneath that the painter's tape is going to be in your base wall color, so that when you peel the painter's tape up, all you're going to see is the nice clean line of the new color. Because anything that spilled through was the color that's actually underneath. So that's a really neat trick, and I use that a lot. So this project, the Murphy bed and bookshelf set, is something that I spent quite a lot of time designing and developing. I'm a prop fabricator and a furniture carpenter, and so when I decided to do this myself, it was sort of important to me to make sure that I had every detail of it sort of set before I even really started. I did buy a kit, and I would definitely recommend that if you're going to build your own Murphy bed. It is not a beginner project. It certainly gave me my fair share of struggle. Having all of the right hardware available and having someone I could call to ask questions was really, really valuable and definitely worth the money. One of the things I really wanted was to have some very tall bookshelves sort of framing my Murphy bed. One important thing to know about a Murphy bed is you really do need to anchor it both visually with something, but also physically. You have to have something holding it to the wall because of the way that the springs work. It needs something to pull and push against. And so it is much better if you can give it bookshelves on either side, or if you can give it some sort of big, heavy furniture to connect to. And so when I was looking at the space of that and how that might pan out, I ultimately ended up shifting it to this wall because it gives me a really wonderful view out the window when I wake up in the morning. Make sure that when you're building a built-in bookshelf, don't make it to the size of your ceiling because you won't be able to actually get it up. These are about 3 inches short of the ceiling. I knew that I was going to need a zone for where to have my clothes and where to get ready in the morning, and I knew that I was going to need to have enough room to walk around the bed. And so all of those considerations sort of came into play when I was thinking about how big the bookshelves on either side wanted to be, what I wanted to put in whichever space. And so all of those different considerations become variables that you can play with in your when you're doing your math. One other important feature that I really needed to take into consideration when I was designing these bookshelves was that I knew I wanted to host my weekly D&D game. And so I had 8 folding chairs that needed to go somewhere. And so the bottom of these bookshelves is actually built to house 4 chairs on each side. Murphy bed part 2. So when you're dressing a bookshelf, which would be the professional term for just decorating, making a bookshelf look nice, one of the things that I really knew I wanted was lots of plants. These bookshelves don't hit all of the right light. They're not a great plant zone. So I started a collection of art plants, fun little paper and fabric and ceramic, just wherever I see or find an idea for an art plant. I made a lot of them myself, but certainly lots and lots of people are making them on Etsy, lots and lots of people at local farmers markets. On the bottom shelf here, I have this line of books that's all basically the same height all the way across. And actually what that does is it's drawing your eye all the way across that bookshelf, unifying the two separate bookshelves in a way that's new and different for your eye. So that's an exciting thing for your eye to see. Eventually, I'm hoping to use this as my guest bed. So I have these little fold down night table moments here where you put a cup of water or your eyeglass and a spot to charge your phone. And then I wanted to make sure that I had a nice light to read by at night. So I ended up hanging this piece. It comes out, I remove it when I'm going to close the bed, so it doesn't get folded up in there. But it's just a nice focal point for the whole look. If we're going to talk about textures, I mean, the bed is the perfect spot to do that, because one of the things that you can really do to add interest to your bedding, to the spaces that you want to feel really cozy and homey, is just to think about the textures you're using. If all you have are cotton sheets and a cotton duvet and cotton bed pillowcases and all of that is all the same, you start to sort of have to move towards color in order to create a lot of difference. And maybe that's what you want, but maybe if you want to add a little bit more depth, think about knits. Two different kinds of knits. I've got a straight knit here and a knit with a cable that's got a little bit more depth to it, can really create some sort of shadow and play that really makes you want to sink in a little bit. So the textures I'm using in my home are wovens, I've got knits, I've got velvets. Especially with the textile textures, I threw leather in there, which is an interesting textural choice. So I have just the whole wide range. And once you get all of those different textures together, all of them together start to feel like they all belong. This is my front door, my entryway. I wanted to make sure that there were a lot of really good drop zones in this area, because the first thing that I want to do anytime I'm coming home from work is immediately drop everything I brought in. So I have an entryway table here. I have a little spot for my shoes. I have a little bench here it's a school bench that I painted with this cute little pattern so that you can put shoes on and take them off easily. This is a piece that I built with my dad, who's a woodworker in his wood shop in Minnesota. So the base for this is an industrial sewing machine with a foot pedal, an old antique one that was on the side of the road. And so I dragged it home and I cleaned it up, and the top was in really bad shape. So I ended up designing and building an entirely new top with drawers and everything that would just give it a fresh new life. And it's a piece that I'm really going to cherish for the rest of my life because of that. And it does work, which is really exciting. And the other thing I really wanted to do in this space is really focus on making sure that I was seeing things I really loved the first thing when I walked in the door. So this painting is a painting done by a friend of my grandmother's, and she bought it for me when I was a child. I love art, and I have a lot of it. My approach to a gallery wall is to just start putting things on the wall. Similar to my approach to paint, I will often take the big thing and go, okay, I know I want the big thing to be in this spot, and then work from there. In this case, I knew I wanted this picture to bridge the line of color on the wall. So I really liked crossing the color block with that. This is a vintage Art Deco poster for a dance piece that I got from rawpixel.com. I got it printed by a vinyl banner company for a pretty reasonable amount of money, and then I just stuck it up on the bottom here and sealed over it with a matte sealer so that it wouldn't be too shiny. And I really, really like it. I think it brings some of the colors that I have in other places into this apartment really nicely. This is actually a table. It's a folding table, and I knew I needed a big table for hosting my D&D night. It's something that was important to me. And so I built and designed this table to fold as small as possible so that it could also serve as a piece of art. When I moved in, the whole apartment was painted a very sterile white, and especially this kitchen. These cabinets are gorgeous and they're in really good condition, but they weren't really in a color that spoke to my soul. The whole place was very sterile and white. So the first thing that I did was I painted this big swath up the ceiling to mirror some of that curve design and to bring a darker color in here so that I could start to build a new color palette for this space. It was very 1980s Ukrainian cruise, which was sort of a strange aesthetic to be working with. I also added these are stick-on tile stickers. I felt like anything I did to paint the space would just be removing from what makes them so great. So I went for a more renter-friendly removable option. I laid down some contact paper first, and these are removable tile decals. And they've created this really great sort of bright, vibrant, colorful geometric tile pattern that really fits in with the rest of my aesthetic. And then I brought the color down to the floor as well. This rug was woven for me by my mother. She's a rug weaver, and I'm very, very lucky to have it. She wove it specifically for this space. Bringing color into a kitchen cabinet can be really hard. One of the things that I did here in these glass front cabinets is I actually put a really bright contact paper behind it to make everything pop a little bit, so then my white dishes seem more like an accent color than they do just fading to the background in the background of white. The other wonderful choice that I was able to make in this kitchen is the Samsung glass front fridge. They come in a range of colors and you can swap out the fronts, which is really exciting. This kitchen could not handle a modern stainless steel fridge. Design-wise, it would look wrong. And so I was able to find something that would come into the color world that I was working towards and sort of add an extra block of color in the way that I wanted. This is the little nook in the back corner of the apartment by the bathroom that I call my studio. This is my desk and where I do beadwork and other sewing projects and that kind of art. Yeah, it's a little hard to make a dark, tiny space somewhere that you feel warm and inviting and ready to work. One of the things that I've done to help with that is I've added this desk light that's very bright and has a magnifying glass on it so that I can really get a lot of light into this space for actually working purposes. One of the other things I really wanted was a patterned wallpaper with color blocked shelving. And I had a friend design this beautiful, beautiful wallpaper for me. And we went through Spoonflower's stick-on wallpaper process, and it was like a dream, very easy. And then I took colors from this wallpaper and I used them in the paint in this corner so that it would all feel sort of like its own little zone of creativity. So this is my bathroom. One of the things I really wanted to do with this space was to create sort of a relaxed spa-like feel. Spa-like is kind of the buzzword that you're hearing, especially on TikTok a lot when you're looking at home goods for bath. And I think they're right. I think having a relaxing, luxurious environment to just decompress and take care of yourself and your body in is really important. I've got a light wood tone thing going on and a lot more greens, especially because in this bathroom I don't have a window, so I can't have any plants to bring in that natural green. So I've got a lot of green color and the florals of the shower curtain to sort of bring in some of that natural vibe. Some of the pieces of art that I have, I've had since I was a child. Many of the pieces of furniture came with me from my old apartment. In curating this particular space, I was taking a lot of work that I had built the groundwork for a long time. Certainly a year and a half is a very quick timeline for a project like this. I definitely put a lot of effort and focus into it to get it done this quickly. So, you know, you wouldn't necessarily expect someone moving in to have their home looking like this quickly. But it was a priority for me because I was looking at it every day and I really wanted to spend my time and my energy on these projects. I find them fulfilling and I enjoy doing them. And so home to me needs to be a space where I am instantly at rest and instantly feeling supported and loved and cared for and able to do those things for myself because of the way that the world is these days. You spend so much time doing other things and so much time other places that coming home is really important.